Level 0 Interrogation Room, Langley. Basement in Virginia. You open your eyes. The air smells of plastic from computer towers and ozone from powerful ventilation. There are no windows in the room, only blinding white lights that make your eyes water. You are sitting in a rigid chair. Your chest is strapped with polygraph belts, metal sensors on your fingers, a blood pressure cuff on your forearm. In front of you sits a man with an absolute stone face. He doesn't blink. He stares directly at the sensors, recording your breathing and pulse. On the table lies your questionnaire. The Lifestyle Polygraph is the gateway to the CIA. The examiner asks questions in a flat, monotonous voice. They dig into your past, your money, your family, your dirtiest secrets. They are looking for compromise, something foreign intelligence can hook you with. If you hide even one shameful detail, the needle on the screen will jump. Your career will end before it even starts. Next to the polygraph lies a clearance form and a pen. You must surrender all your secrets to the system, so it can give you access to other people's secrets. The price of your honesty is lifetime monitoring and a file that will always lie in the security department vault. The price of your secrecy is instant termination and a blacklist in all government agencies. What do? Confess to what you've never told, even your parents, or try to beat the censors, hoping your will is stronger than the machine. Choose, tell the truth, or beat the machine. Level 1, Analyst with secret clearance, CIA headquarters, Langley. Morning. The smell of fresh coffee, furniture, polish, and printing ink. You received a basic clearance, secret. You are an analyst for the Directorate of Analysis. You have great health insurance, a prestigious job, and a stable salary. But your working life is locked in a SCIF, sensitive, compartmented information facility, a room protected from electronic eavesdropping. The walls are lined with copper sheets. Window vibration silencers are active. Every morning you leave your phone in a locker at the entrance. You spend 10 hours a day in complete informational isolation from the world. Your wife thinks you analyze markets for a government department. You can't tell her that this morning. You compared satellite images and realized a coup is brewing in the desert. You smile at dinner, listening to her work problems, but mentally, you are still in that lead room. In the locker room before leaving, you freeze. On your home phone, which sat there all day, sits a tiny snail in a fedora hat. You shake your head, chalking it up to fatigue from working with spreadsheets, and she disappears. The next day you stand in the corridor with a cup of coffee from the shadows by the vending machine. A man in a beige trench coat watches you. He thoughtfully clicks his pen. On the metal rim of the machine sits that same snail in a This is Detective Jimmy. Jimmy picks up a dropped safety regulation sheet from the floor. Do you know why they ban phones? Jimmy asks quietly. It's not just protection from leaks. It's the beginning of your isolation. The state creates a barrier between your working world and your family. Very soon, you will realize that it's easier not to talk to loved ones than to constantly filter every word. Your identity begins to split in two. Level 2, Operative with top secret clearance streets of a foreign metropolis. Gloom, you went further. Your clearance is now top secret. You graduated from the training camp, the farm in Virginia. You are a case officer, a recruiter. Your weapon is not a gun, but psychology. You are in another country, undercover. As a diplomat or a businessman, your goal is to find a foreigner with access to secrets and force him to betray his country. You are targeting a nuclear physicist. He has a sick daughter and huge debts for surgery. He is on the edge of despair. You sit with him in a dimly lit restaurant, playing the role of an understanding friend. In your briefcase is enough cash to save his child, but in return, you ask for files. technical characteristics of centrifuges. You use his weakness. You manipulate his fatherly instinct. You promise him safety. Promise that if a threat arises, the CIA will get his family out to the US. But you know the rules of the game. If local counterintelligence starts tracking him, Langley will order you to cut all contacts immediately. He will be arrested and executed for espionage, and you will just fly home on the next flight with a diplomatic passport. For the system, he is expendable, and you are the hand that uses him. What do? Play on a father's love for a sick child. Recruit him and get the data, knowing you condemn him to mortal risk, or spare his family, back off, and fail a mission of national importance. Choose, recruit, or spare. Detective Jimmy stands at the intersection under an umbrella, watching your meeting through the restaurant glass. The snail slowly crawls along the wet menu at the entrance. Classic recruitment. The detective notes, when you go outside, you use the MyCE method, but the price is your own empathy to sleep at night. You will have to convince yourself that this physicist is just a pawn in a chess game. Your brain learns to see people, not as personalities, but as sets of vulnerabilities that can be exploited. Level 3. SCI Access and Special Programs, SAP Closed Sector of CIA Headquarters. Deep night, you rose to the very top. Your level is SCI, Sensitive Compartmented Information. You work on a special access program, codenamed Avalon. A strict need-to-know principle works here. You cannot discuss your work, even with a colleague from the next office, who also has top secret, unless he is on the Avalon list. You analyze targets for drone strikes in the Middle East. On the thermal imager, you see an object. A group of men enters the building. The facial recognition system gives a match. With a militant leader, the strike order is ready. But you notice a detail. The inner courtyard of the building is filled with children's things. Civilian lives are there. You ask to delay the strike, to double-check the data. Your boss shakes his head. Your job is to confirm target coordinates. Collateral damage analysis is done by another department. You don't have access to their data. Do your part of the instructions. You understand how this machine is built. The whole huge structure is broken into thousands of small, isolated compartments. A person in one compartment presses a button. A person in another analyzes the picture. A person in a third signs the report. None of them feel like a killer, because no one sees the whole picture. Responsibility simply dissolves in bureaucracy. By the way, if you reached this level, it means you like digging into psychology and hidden system mechanisms. YouTube is reluctant to promote such videos, preferring simple background clips. Your like and subscription right now is real help to the channel. A sign to the algorithms that smart content must live. Make that click. We continue. You sit in an empty office after the shift. The thermal image is still before your eyes. The snail sits on the corner of your closed terminal's keyboard. She moves her horns, looking at the blinking LED. Jimmy stands by the window, looking at the dark woods of Langley. Moral buffering, Jimmy says quietly. The system is designed to protect your psyche from guilt. By dividing the process into parts, you become a gear that helps aim missiles, but comforts itself with the fact that it was just processing images. Level 4. Operational Group Leader, Safe House, Mediterranean. Semi-darkness, 15 years in the system. Your first marriage collapsed because you disappeared on deployments for years, about which you couldn't say a word. Your children grew up considering you cold and strange, always looking right through them. Now you run a station. Young officers are under you. One of your agents on the ground reports. A major deal to transfer encryption codes is being prepared. If you intercept the codes, the US will get access to the correspondence of a dangerous group. But your officer made a mistake. Local police are on his tail. If you order him to proceed and grab the codes, he will almost certainly be arrested. He faces prison and brutal interrogation, but you will have the codes. If you order him to drop everything and run to the safe house, the officer is saved, but the codes will be lost forever, and the enemy's intelligence will change the encryption. Headquarters in Langley demands the codes at all costs. This is a national security priority. Risk is justified. But the officer is a guy you trained yourself at the farm. You know his family. What do? Order the officer to go to the end, risking his life for codes, or violate the directive. Save your man, but fail a critical mission. Choose, get codes, or save the officer. Jimmy sits on the back of a chair in front of the terminal. The snail slowly crawls along the red telephone receiver. Double bind, the detective says coldly. A classic no-win situation. If you save the man, you will be removed from leadership and written off as unfit. If you obey the order and lose him, you will get a promotion, but you will see his face every night. The system always forces a choice, where you lose as a human being either way. Level 5, CIA veteran, the Ghost Country House, Virginia. Day you retired. You have a good pension, a beautiful house in a quiet suburb. You mow the lawn, wave to neighbors, who think you are a sweet, retired bureaucrat. But your brain stayed on duty. You can't sit with your back to the exit in cafes. You instinctively memorize license plates of cars that park on your street twice. Every sudden sound makes your body tense, releasing a shot of adrenaline. But the worst part is the silence. When you are left alone, memories of recruited and abandoned agents start to choke you. You decide to go to a civilian therapist just to talk it out. You sit in a chair. The doctor is ready to listen, but you realize you can't tell him anything specific. You signed a lifetime secrecy agreement, pre-publication review agreement. If you tell the therapist details of operations that break your mind, you violate federal law. You face prison. Your pain is classified. Your trauma belongs to the state. You try to write a memoir, changing names and countries. You send the manuscript to the CIA review board. PRB, 8 months later, you get a stack of sheets back, where entire paragraphs and pages are flooded with black marker. Your life has turned into a set of black stripes. Jimmy stands at your desk, looking at the censored manuscript. The snail sits on your glass of water. Institutional betrayal, Jimmy says quietly. You gave the system your best years, your family, and your mind. But as soon as you retired, you became a leak threat to it. She closed your mouth with a non-disclosure agreement and left you alone with your ghosts. Let's go to the archive. It's time to crack this lock. Archive. Secret room. At dusk, Jimmy sits at a steel desk. Stacks of C-files rise around him like skyscrapers. The snail slowly crawls on the globe. Phenomenon 1. The polygraph as a tool of submission. Confessional polygraph submission. This is not a lie detector, Jimmy says, showing a diagram printout. It is an initiation ritual. The CIA uses the Lifestyle Polygraph, not to find spies. There are other methods for that. The polygraph's task is to make the candidate voluntarily surrender their most intimate secrets. When you tell a stranger about your shameful deeds, you break your psychological boundaries. You admit that you have nothing private that is hidden from the system. From this moment, the system owns you. Psychological toolkit. If your employer or partner demands full, absolute transparency, trying to control your personal chats or thoughts under the guise of honesty, this is not honesty. This is an attempt to break your personal boundaries for easier manipulation. Always leave a territory inside yourself where no one has access. Google Lifestyle Polygraph, security clearance, psychological impact. Phenomenon 2. Cognitive gap of SCIF isolation, SCIF syndrome. Jimmy puts a diagram of a shielded room on the table. SCIF syndrome is a reality for thousands of analysts. The detective continues. When a person spends 10 hours a day in a space, isolated from the outside world, without the ability to contact family, their psyche adapts. The phenomenon of a double life arises. At home, you must be a caring spouse, but you cannot share what really bothers you at work. A wall of silence arises, which slowly kills the marriage. Psychological toolkit. If you cannot talk about the details of your work, share emotions. Instead of facts, talk about feelings. Today was a very hard day. I feel drained. This allows your loved one to stay in emotional contact with you without violating your work commitments. Google secrecy in relationships, psychological distance, couples therapy. Phenomenon 3. Professional Machiavellianism, exploitative recruitment bias. Jimmy pulls out an agent recruitment manual. The snail slowly crawls over the MICE acronym. A CIA operative must be a master of manipulation. Jimmy says he looks for vulnerabilities in people, greed, fear, vanity, and uses them. But this habit quickly becomes a professional deformation. Over time, the operative begins to subconsciously scan his friends, wife, and children, looking for their weak spots to manage them. Psychological toolkit. If your job involves constant negotiations, sales, or managing people, you risk bringing these methods home. Practice conscious helplessness. At home, turn off the control mode. Let your loved ones make decisions and speak openly about your weaknesses without trying to look like an ideal manipulator. Google dark triad traits in espionage operatives, psychology. Phenomenon 4. Moral buffering and diffusion of responsibility. Organizational moral buffering. Jimmy shows a diagram of a CIA department management structure. Compartmentalization is not just secrecy, it is protection from conscience. The detective notes, moral buffering occurs when a complex task is broken into such small steps that no single person in the chain feels personal responsibility for the final result. The person who uploaded data into the program does not feel involved in the explosion on the other end of the earth. Psychological toolkit. In large corporations, this mechanism works constantly. You can write code for an algorithm that ruins people or sell a harmful product, comforting yourself that I'm just doing my job. Always try to evaluate the global consequences of what your company does. Do not let the structure put your personal morality to sleep. Google moral disengagement in bureaucratic structures by Noir. Phenomenon 5. Institutional betrayal and lifetime redaction. Institutional betrayal and PRB. Jimmy closes the last censored folder. The snail freezes on a black line. Her horns are tense. A lifetime non-disclosure agreement is a psychological clamp, Jimmy says. A person is designed to talk through their traumatic experience, to free themselves from it. But the CIA, through the PRB review board, literally privatizes your memory. You are forbidden to share your story. You become a hostage of your own head when the organization you gave your life to forbids you to heal your own soul, to save its face. That is institutional betrayal. Psychological toolkit. If you face betrayal from a company that threw you away after years of loyalty, do not try to prove your case to it. The system is soulless. Direct your forces to building your personal circle of support, people who value you as a person, not as an employee with a certain status. Google institutional betrayal trauma. Jennifer Freyd. Jimmy stands up from the table, puts on his hat, adjusts his coat collar. The snail jumps onto his shoulder. 5 security clearance levels. The detective says, 5 ways to erase a person for the safety of the state. Only remember, Real secrets are not kept in Langley vaults. They are kept in the silence of those who survived. Jimmy pauses, looking at the camera. I'm just a detective. If this archive made you think about your life, talk to those who can help. He turns around and walks into the darkness. Subscribe to Detective Jimmy and Snail. Like if you want us to keep opening these folders. See you in the shadows. The light goes out. Only the quiet rustle of the crawling snail is heard.
Author's commentary. Hi. In spy movies, they show us a beautiful picture, suits, expensive watches, car chases, but behind this facade lies a harsh reality. The CIA is an organization that professionally breaks and isolates a person's identity, forcing them to live in a lie, even with their closest ones. When I studied real research on SCIF syndrome and the psychological consequences of passing the polygraph, I realized how deep this trauma is. But this video, as always, is not just about spies. Look at your life. How many of us work in corporations under NDA letters, hiding our stress from loved ones? How many of us burn out at work and turn into emotionless robots at home because of compartmentalization? The system always wants to take you whole. And when you can no longer work, it just deletes you from the database. Do not let any job replace your identity. Write in the comments if you've faced institutional betrayal at your work. Join our community tab on Detective Jimmy and Snail. A discussion of this episode is already underway there. Take care of yourself. And see you in the shadows.